What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's CJ, and in today's video, we're looking at some more NBA player props over on PrizePicks tonight. I got 5 different props that I want to take a look at. Yesterday's video did pretty decent, I would say. I think we ended up having 3 hits out of 5. One was Mike Conley Jr. He was one of the disappointments who didn't hit. Unfortunately, he was bitten by the injury bug. Ended up leaving that game a little bit early, so he couldn't cash in on that 3-point prop that we had him set up for. Another guy that totally let us down was Reggie Bullock, who happened to find his 3-point stroke last night and ended up knocking us out pretty quick if you took the under on his 3-point makes. He found whatever it was that was missing and ended up nailing a bunch of shots early on. But anyway, that was yesterday. This is today. New opportunity, new day for some new dollars. I got my Salvetri shirt on today. Dollarooskies for the brewskis. That's what we're trying to do, guys. We're trying to earn a few bucks and a few celebratory beers, hopefully, after the night is over. So if this is your first time to the channel, hit subscribe. Make sure notifications are turned on, because once I upload this video to YouTube, the picks in today's video are only good for about an hour. They have about an hour shelf life, and then they tend to go up or down depending on how the action starts rolling in on some of these picks. Now, I will say that the 5 picks that I have assembled for today's video were a struggle, and the reason is that PrizePicks has been hard at work today. Their lines makers and lines movers are I guess they're doing a honest day's work for an honest day's wage. I mean, they've just been busy over there bumping things up and bumping things down. But if you don't play on PrizePicks, definitely think about getting signed up for PrizePicks today. It's a great time. No better time than now. They're doing a 100% instant deposit match on your first deposit of up to $100. So you deposit anything anywhere from $20 up to $100. They're going to match it, and you're going to have basically double whatever you put in to play with on PrizePicks. It's the only site that I know of where you can miss one of your picks in a flex entry and get some sort of profit. So pretty cool there. You can't really do that anywhere else. So definitely think about signing up. I'll leave a link down in the description below, and you can see the banner at the bottom of this video. Promo code Curry gets you that 100% instant deposit match on PrizePicks. So with that out of the way, let's start digging into some of these player props and see what I was able to cook up. Now, you're going to have some guts here to play some of these player props, because I got guys like Nikola Jokic, Damian Lillard going under on their points tonight, but for good reason. So let's start looking at some of these games here. We got the Denver Nuggets at the Portland Trail Blazers. This game has a 227.5 implied point total, with Portland as 5-point favorites at home. The next game we have are the Phoenix Suns at the Los Angeles Lakers. This one is a much lower scoring game, just 207.5 implied point total, with the Lakers as 2-point favorites at home. So you're talking about a game that has nearly 230 points versus one that has around 200 points. The one that I'm looking to take some overs from is probably the Denver-Portland game, unless you're Nikola Jokic and Damian Lillard in their point category. I just think that this could be a game here where maybe these guys regress a little bit, but let's go ahead and take a look at it. We'll start things off here with Nikola Jokic, who's at 32.5 implied points today. So he's taking on the Portland Trail Blazers. That game tips off at 8:10 p.m. on the East Coast. Let's get a look at Nikola Jokic's point prop. So he's at 30 projected points today, which puts him under 32.5 by 2.5 points. Now, here's what I'll say about Nikola Jokic. He's a much better scorer at home. His numbers, his splits are much better at home than they are on the road. So this kind of makes some sense here why people are taking the under, or why he's projected to go under. So let's move things over to NBA.com. We'll type in Jokic's name and we'll get an idea of how well he scored both for the season, and then we'll look at the averages for this series, and we'll kind of go from there. You can see that for the season, he's scoring 26.4 points per game, which is obviously quite a bit less than this 32.5 figure that he is projected for today over on PrizePicks. So the under is definitely on the table here, but we know Nikola Jokic, MVP caliber talent. Guy could really just go off for 30, 35, 40 points any game that he wants, right? So that's why we're going to look at the playoff series so far here. He's played in 5 games against this Portland team, played about 35 minutes per game, 32.4 points per game, which puts him just a little bit under this 32.5 point prop today, just barely. Now here's where things get interesting. We're going to click traditional splits here, click advanced filters. We're going to change this location to the road because he's going to be a visitor today at Portland. And you can see that his scoring drops off quite a bit. He goes from 32.4 points down to 26 points in road games rather. So at Portland so far, he's averaging just 26 points per game, which is, way less than this 32.5 point number. So that's kind of an interesting tidbit that I came across when doing my preliminary research here on Nikola Jokic. I can kind of understand why he's projected to go under based on what we saw over on Number Fire. So with that out of the way, let's head over to RotoWire real quick. We'll take a look at the different points props there. And we got Nikola Jokic here at 32.5 points across the industry today. Now we're seeing a little bit of mixed results here as far as which way people are putting their money down on the overs or the unders on this point prop. We got him as a minus 117 for the under, which is a good sign for us because I think that's the way that I'm leaning. But he's also a minus 109 for the over. So this isn't a clean cut super strong position being taken out here on the under on this 32.5 point prop. So we'll move over to the next site. A little bit stronger position here though, a minus 118 for the under, minus 104 for the over. So it's another situation where people are targeting the under in this case. And then finally, the last site here actually favors the over. They have him going for 33 or, I'm sorry, got to take that back. Let me pause for a second because this is actually a 31.5 point line. So at 31.5 points, they've got him at a minus 125 to go over. So that's a little bit of a different situation. So 31.5, they like the over. 32.5, they like the under. So between 31.5 and 32.5 is 32 points. So as long as he stays at 32, like he's kind of setting up to score 32 points according to these various sports books, we should be okay with taking the under on Nikola Jokic. So like I said, got to have a little bit of guts here. Got to have a little bit of courage to take the under on a guy like Nikola Jokic, but that's the way that I'm leaning on this particular point prop. So with him out of the way, Damian Lillard was another guy that kind of caught my eye. He's at 35.5 points over on PrizePicks, and they kind of had him boosted, I think, by like 1 point over where his lines were across the industry today. So I think most places had him at around 34.5 points. They've got him jacked up to 35.5 points. Kind of a game of chicken, I guess you could say. They want to see if we're afraid to take the under on a guy like Damian Lillard coming off of a big 50-plus point performance where he was just absolutely nuts from beyond the arc. I think he hit 12 three-pointers, breaking Klay Thompson's playoff three-point make record. So can he do that again? Probably not. I mean, not on a back-to-back like that. I don't think he's going to come out and hit 12 threes again. But let's go ahead and look at Damian Lillard's projected points today. They got him at 32.5 points. Now that puts him 3 entire points under 35.5, indicating that the under is definitely the way we should be thinking about leaning in this situation. Now, got to keep in mind, Portland Trail Blazers, their backs are against this wall here. They got to basically win or they go home. Now, Damian Lillard, as great of a player as he is, I don't expect another 50-plus point performance type of game. Now, I said you had to have guts to take the under on Nikola Jokic. Maybe you have to have even bigger guts to take the under on Damian Lillard after seeing what he did to the Nuggets the other night. But whenever a guy's coming off of a huge performance like that, I like to summon the regression monster and hope that he kind of comes back down in line with where his averages are for this series. Now, for the season, he scored 28.8 points per game, which is a pretty strong points per game average. Obviously, that's way less than 35.5. So let's click the stats here, look at how well he's been scoring throughout this playoff series. You can see he's got 5 games in the books here against this Denver Nuggets team. He's been averaging 35.6 points per game, which is just a hair higher than this 35.5 point prop over on PrizePicks. So puts him right there in the same neighborhood as this prop. He could go for 35, he could go for 36 based on these averages. But here's where things get interesting. It's kind of the opposite, the flip-flop of Nikola Jokic. Damian Lillard is not as good at home as he is on the road. I'll let you take a look at the splits from this series and you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about here. So we'll click traditional splits. we'll go into the advanced filters, we'll change the location to home, and we'll click run it. And you can see that in this series, the 2 games that he's played at home, 23.5 points per game. Now I'll switch this over to road and you'll see what a difference it makes. And he shoots all the way up to 43.7 points per game on the road. So, the splits indicate that in the playoffs, he is a much better player on the road, surprisingly, than he is at home. Now, I went and looked at his splits for the regular season here, and he is also a slightly better player on the road for the regular season than he is at home as well. So, pretty interesting information there. Nikola Jokic, much better at home. Damian Lillard, much better on the road. So let's move over to RotoWire. We'll take a look at the lines here across the industry. We've got, like I said, different lines compared to where PrizePicks has this guy. They've got him at 33.5, 34.5. At 33.5, people are taking the under as a minus 127 to go over. So 34 or more points here at this minus 127 figure. Now at 34.5, interestingly enough, he is a favorite to go under, a minus 122 to go under here, and a minus 125 to go under there. So they've got him set up to go for about 34 points tonight. So at 34 implied points, based on what we're seeing here on these different Vegas lines, these different sports books, that would make him a candidate to go under this 35.5 number. So they're kind of spotting us a point here, giving us a little bit of value, I would say, on PrizePicks. So anytime that a guy is inflated at like 35.5 like Damian Lillard is, I'm more likely to take the under in this situation. They're kind of daring us to, right? So I'm going to have to take the value and hope that it ends up paying off on Damian Lillard. Got to have some guts, though. You got to have some guts and some courage to run with the under on either one of these guys. Next guy I want to talk about is Aaron Gordon. I think we mentioned him in the video the other day. Now, the other day, I believe he was at 11.5 points. We ended up taking the over on that points prop. But today, he's at 12.5 points. They bumped him up by 1 point, which leads me to want to take the under on Aaron Gordon in this case. So let's head back over to Number Fire. We'll do a search here for Aaron Gordon. And you can see that today they've got him projected at 11.8 points, which puts him under 12 points. Even if we rounded this up to 12, 12's less than 12.5, which indicates we should be leaning, or at least thinking about leaning, toward the under in this case. So let's head back to NBA.com. We'll type in Aaron Gordon's name, get an idea how well he's been scoring both for the season and throughout this playoff series so far. So for the season, 12.4 points per game. That is obviously a little less than 12.5, indicating that between 12 and 13 points, he's more on the 12 side of things most of the time. So let's go ahead and dig into how well he's played throughout this series. Well, funny enough, in the 5 games that he's played, he's averaging 29.5 minutes per game. He's exactly where he's at for his season scoring average of 12.4 points. Now, 12.4, again, less than 12.5, indicating he leans more toward 12 points than he does 13 points. So the under, in my opinion, still definitely on the table here for Aaron Gordon. So let's move over to RotoWire. We'll take a look at his points prop over there. See if I can find him here. There he is. At 12.5 points across the industry, we've got him as a minus 121 to go under, a minus 112 to go under. Now, fascinating here, at 11.5 points, he is a minus 133 to go over. So again, this is one of those situations where we got a couple of different books who have the line set on Aaron Gordon in different spots here, 11.5 versus 12.5. And right in between that lies 12, where is Aaron Gordon might be, landing tonight. He might land right on 12 points, which puts him under. So I'm liking the way that this is shaping up here at 11.5. I kind of agree with the folks over on BetMGM who are taking the over here at minus 133. I'd probably lean toward the over at 11.5, but at 12.5, I'm taking the under. Now, it's going to be pretty tight margins here, but that's the way that I would lean on Aaron Gordon, especially with Jokic projected to be a lower scorer. Somebody else is going to have to step up here, whether that be Aaron Gordon or maybe Monte Morris or maybe even Michael Porter Jr. So With him out of the way, we're going to talk one more Denver Nugget who is kind of seeing his playing time start to dwindle as this playoff series has unfolded, and that's Facundo Campazzo, FC. I don't know how to say his name very well. Sorry, guys at home. But at 9.5 points, I kind of like taking the under here. As I mentioned, he's losing more and more playing time to Monte Morris. So I don't expect Campazzo to be a big-time scorer going forward in this series. So let's take a look at his numbers and see how things shape up. So we'll do a little search here over on Number Fire, and we've got him at 7.6 projected points tonight. Now, that is pretty nice in terms of the differentials here. Obviously, that's almost 2 whole points different, right? So the projections on Number Fire pretty accurate most of the time, pretty good, pretty trustworthy. I would say that this is a great situation for us to target the under so far. We're going to do a search for him on NBA.com, see how well he's been scoring for the season and throughout this series so far. You can see his season averages aren't very good, 6.1 points per game, but with the likes of Jamal Murray going down, Monte Morris was out for a little bit of time, Will Barton missed some time as well. He started getting more playing time, and his scoring average ended up going up from that 6.1 point per game figure. Now, if we look at just his playoff series so far, he's appeared in 5 games, all 5 games, 28.5 minutes per game, and he's been scoring at a 9.2 point per game clip, which was already lower than 9.5 points. Now factor in the emergence or the re-emergence of Monte Morris, and I think that there's less of the piece of the pie for Campazzo to take a bite out of. So I'm definitely still liking the under on this play today. So we're going to move things over to RotoWire. We're going to take a look at how he is setting up here across the industry. Now, this is another situation where his lines are at different numbers depending on where you play. So PrizePicks has him at 9.5. He's at 9.5 over here and 8.5 on 2 other books. So at 9.5, he is a minus 127 to go under, which is a good sign for us because, in case you couldn't tell, that's the way that I'm leaning on this guy today. I'm thinking the under is the way to go here. Now, we've got him at 8.5 on 2 other books. Now, he's at minus 128 to go over on one of those books. He is a minus 133 to go over on another one. So obviously, again, between 8.5 and 9.5 lies 9 points. So he's setting up to score about 9 points tonight. So yeah, I think I'm going to stick to it with all things considered. Going to go under on Campazzo here and hope for the very best. So that's 4 props out of the way. We've got one more to give you, and the guy that caught my eye in terms of a 3-point shooter was Michael Porter Jr. A lot of these 3-point props on the PrizePicks board today have been rounded up or rounded down accordingly. So you got like Jokic at 2, Lillard at 5, Powell at 2, Booker at 2. So, you know, a lot of the action's already starting to come in on PrizePicks, and when they do that, their lines makers or lines movers, whatever you want to call them, they start rounding those figures up, rounding them down. I don't like talking about rounded player props on this video. I want clean wins, clean losses. I don't want to push whenever I put anybody into any of my entries. Now, pushes still get you paid over on PrizePicks, but you don't get paid nearly as much, and it kind of favors the house or favors PrizePicks in this case. So that's why I try to stay away from those. I want to maximize my profits. Speaking of maximizing your profits, they're running a very good promo over on PrizePicks tonight. I don't know if you caught wind of it, but 2-pick power play entries tonight. Instead of giving you a 3 times on your money payout, they're going to give you a 4 times on your money payout. So once again, if you don't play on PrizePicks, sign up, use promo code Curry, lock in as many 2-pick power plays as you want. They're going to pay you up to $250 in promo credits for all of your winning entries tonight. So pretty cool deal. I'm going to definitely be hammering as many 2-pick power plays as I could possibly manage. Anyway, Michael Porter Jr. at 2.5 3-point makes. He's kind of had a down series so far. This could be a spot, though, where we look to target a guy who's been struggling in a bounce back situation. So let's go take a look at Michael Porter Jr.'s stats, and we'll see if going over or under on this 3-point prop is a good look. So we're back to NBA.com. We're going to click stats here, and we're going to change this from playoffs to regular season. And in 61 regular season games, he attempted 6.3 3-pointers per game, making 2.8 of them, good for a 44.5% 3-point field goal percentage. So obviously 2.8 3-point makes is more than 2.5, indicating that more often than not. He's closer to 3 3-point makes per game than he is 2. So that's a good first sign here. Now let's change this from regular season to playoffs and see what happens. Swig of water for the working man. He's appeared in all 5 of these playoff games. He's averaging almost 35 minutes per game. Now his figures, as I mentioned, are down across the board here. He's attempting almost 6 3-pointers per game, making 2.2 of them. His 3-point field goal percentage is down to 37.9%. Still a pretty good percentage, just not as good as it was throughout the regular season. So he has regressed in this series so far. Now, if you're a believer in this sort of thing, I like to buy the dip, in stocks or in crypto and stuff like that. This is a good situation, in my opinion, to kind of buy the dip on Michael Porter Jr. here. We know that he can hit 3 or more threes per game. He's done it pretty regularly throughout the end of the regular season, heading into the playoffs. And with guys like Campazzo scoring projected to be under tonight, Aaron Gordon projected to be an under in scoring tonight, Nikola Jokic projected to be an under in scoring tonight, somebody's going to have to step up and score some points, and I think that's where Michael Porter Jr. kind of fills that role for me tonight. So I try to connect the dots. I look at all these different player props and try to see what story it's trying to tell. So it looks like this is a good spot here for this 3-point prop to go over. Now, we're looking at 2.5 3-point makes across the industry for Michael Porter Jr. tonight, seeing some fantastic odds, a -125 to go under. Or over, -125 to go over, a -146 to go over, and last but not least, a -139 to go over. So it seems like the bettors across the different sports books also agree. This looks like a good bounce back spot here for Michael Porter Jr. to get back on track from beyond the arc. So I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to take the over on MPJ and hope that he hits at least 3 3-pointers. What do you guys think? Which of these props is standing out to you? Which one is the most risky, the most dangerous? Which one do you think is going to come back to bite me in the butt? You could play these as a 5-pick flex. You could hammer some 2-pick power plays, mix them, match them, however you want to do it. My name's CJ. Good luck tonight. Definitely make sure that you're subscribed, notifications turn on, hit the thumbs up button if this video brought you any value, and we'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace out.